circuit criminal chancery court judges. Every county also has at least one general sessions and juvenile court judge. Municipal judges really vary city to city. Of course, we're also made up of appellate judges and the Tennessee Supreme Court that tell us that what we're doing is probably wrong. Here in the 8th Judicial District, at the trial court level that I serve, Judge Asbury, who you all know, and Judge McAfee from Claiborne County, that you all know, we preside over Campbell, Claiborne, Pinter, Scott, and Union counties, which is why Brandon Johnson, who just left, is always nice to me because I have to buy a lot of tires. In order to be a judge, you have to be a licensed attorney, you have to be 30 years old, and you have to have lived in Tennessee for at least 5 years and in your district for at least 1 year. So here in Campbell County, that's what y'all care about, right? This is what I've been up to for the last year. I saw 716 new charges, 168 probation violations. We're actually down quite a bit. I just updated this presentation from 2 years ago where we had close to 900 new charges. So I've got time because we're doing a little bit less work, easing up a little bit. Campbell County carries the bulk of the new charges in this judicial district, so I'm fortunate that I get to spend most of my time where I live, but that also means that most of the crime in the district occurs where I live. And we've also seen probation violations fall quite a bit as well. So most of what you see are drug charges. That really, really long one, that's all drug charges, virtually all felony drug charges. So that is probably not surprising to any of you all, the majority of what we see. Right behind that is burglary and theft. Property crime is a good proxy for drug crime as well. Most people that steal are stealing to support an addiction habit. So the vast majority of what we deal with here in our county comes down to one issue, drugs, and the secondary issue is mental health, and most of the time those things occur together. So nationwide, we've seen a move towards problem-solving courts. Campbell County was actually at the forefront of this. In 2005, Judge Sexton started our very first felony recovery court. At that time they called it drug court, now they call it recovery court because we deal with alcohol, some other substances where drug isn't necessarily the best definition. But we have a maximum of 45 participants. I think we have about 38 in our program right now. Last year, under the same umbrella, we started a mental health treatment court, and I believe that Sandy Weber, who coordinates all of our courts for us, has spoken to Rotary recently about mental health court. Our grant covers up to 15 participants. Chancellor Asbury actually presides over that court. The individuals in that court are felons and misdemeanants that come from my court, the General Sessions Court, but she has a strong passion for those folks and has been doing great work founding that program and working in it for about the last year and a half. And new this year, in January, we started our Veterans Treatment Court, which takes the best of recovery court and the best of mental health court and works for individuals who have served in our armed forces. So I'm going to talk about recovery court first because it's the easiest to explain and it's been around the longest, and it's something that I think most people in this room have at least heard of before. So what do recovery courts do? First of all, it reduces crime. That's the most important thing. The recidivism rate in the state of Tennessee is right around 30%. Recidivism means people who have been released from prison or probation that commit a crime again within the next 5 years. So they're like 30% of those folks statewide are likely to reoffend 30% of the time. We take the highest risk population of that in our recovery court, and our recidivism rate is less than half of that. So we are taking a population that is likely to reoffend and putting them through a program that when they come out, they are less likely to reoffend, which is exactly what we want to do. It saves money because if you read the comments on Facebook, which is why I try not to read the comments on Facebook, no offense to the press and the WLAF here, every time somebody's arrested, everybody wants them all in jail for the maximum amount of time possible. Our tax rate to be able to do that would be absurd. It costs roughly between $50 and $60 a day in Campbell County to house an inmate. That's an estimate because part of that's overhead. And that's expensive. Multiply that by 365 a year, or we send them to state prison. We have to pay for that too with our tax dollars. it's really, really expensive, and some of our prisons in the state of Tennessee are pretty well at capacity. So to do a lot more than what we're doing as far as incarceration would require pretty significant investment from our state tax dollars. So we need to figure out how we can save that tax money without putting the population at risk and not incarcerating people that should be incarcerated at the same time. So we save money in recovery court simply by taking people that probably should be in prison and putting through a program where we're not having to pay to house them and feed them 3 meals a day and making them better when they come out. We also ensure compliance. This is a high accountability program. Our participants are supervised. We make them have like the app that parents put on their kids' phone. They have that so we know where they are all the time. They have caseworkers, they have probation officers, they have a halfway house. They are highly accountable. It restores families. Almost every week that we meet, there's a participant that says, "Judge, I got to see my kids for the first time in years." Or "My kids saw me sober for the first time in their life." And that's moving when that happens. A lot of times we see people that are working with DCS to get their custody restored, because that's DCS's goal, is they want to see children with their parents as long as their parents are in a safe place. So we get to provide a safety mechanism. We get to take addicted mothers and fathers, show that they have a long compliance of staying sober and accountable and completing different programs and making them fit parents once again, which relieves the foster system. And I think everybody knows that our foster system is maximum capacity. We've all seen the news reports that DCS has had kids sleeping on the floors of offices because they don't have enough places for these kids to go. So the best place for them to go is back to their families, as long as their family can provide a safe environment. And we save lives. Again, all the time we see responses to overdoses. As fentanyl has flooded the streets the last several years, those overdoses are more often fatal now than they used to be. So a recovery court is a team-based approach. So normally in my regular courtroom, like right now, there's a jury trial. The jury's eating Charlie's pizza, and I've got to go get them and start the trial back as soon as we're done here. We have a prosecutor and we have a defense attorney. They're fighting against each other. It's like what you see on Law and Order. The prosecutor is arguing why someone's guilty. The defense attorney is arguing why someone's not guilty. We usually have a law enforcement officer testifying about their investigation. We'll have a probation officer come in at the end to supervise someone. And then, of course, we have my spot, the judge. But all those people on the top line that are normally in court, they're still in recovery court, but they're working together. And they're working with treatment providers and case managers and our court coordinator and our halfway house providers. And we're all working towards one purpose, and that's to look at each individual participant in our program, figure out what they need to live a sober life, to live a safe life, to make sure that their basic needs are met, and to put them on the right track. So we talk about who we're looking for. Not every inmate is a good candidate for recovery court. For one thing, we only accept nonviolent offenders, as well as individuals who have not been convicted of sexual offenses. So we're looking for people that, even though they have engaged in criminal behavior, they're not people that have robbed someone at gunpoint. They're not someone who is, beaten their spouse half to death. Not someone that's committed a homicide. Not someone who's done an offense against a child. We're looking at primarily drug crimes and theft crimes, make up the bulk of our population. But within that, we put everyone through a screening procedure to figure out the people that really need us. So we're looking for the highest risk cases, the highest risk to reoffend, based on a social screening tool that we use, as well as the highest needs. If someone is more of a functioning alcoholic, they're going to work every day, they're still married and in a somewhat healthy family life, they have a home, they don't need us. We're looking for people that they're homeless, transient, jumping from house to house, getting kicked out of apartments. They don't have a lot of social ties as far as a stable relationship or relationships with parents or children. We're looking for the worst cases, the highest risk cases, the ones with the very worst addiction. You got to be in desperate need to get your ticket into our program, because otherwise we're flooding someone with way more resources than they need, can actually be harmful to someone to put them through a halfway house if they've actually got a stable home life. So what do participants in the program do? They work. We keep them busy. They have to attend self-help meetings. You all are familiar with some of those: Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Celebrate Recovery, which has a really strong program in Campbell County especially. We put them through treatment. So sometimes we send people to inpatient treatment. Sometimes we do intensive outpatient treatment where they're meeting 3 or 4 times a week for 3 or 4 hours at a time. They're just not staying in a hospitalized type setting. We use MRT, that's moral recognition therapy. I think I'm getting that right. I'm looking at April because she's sat in on our team before, where we talk about where you make good decisions from, the difference between right and wrong, because years of addiction can cause people's moral compass to get a little off center. We also have participants write a journal every single day. They are drug screened randomly and frequently. They never know when it's coming, but it's coming 2 or 3 times a week, maybe back-to-back days, maybe 4 days apart, but they are drug screened at random. We use urine drug screens. We also have a new blood dot screen that's pretty interesting. Has anyone done the at-home blood test before where you mail it into Quest just for triglycerides? I had to do that for my insurance recently. I pricked my own finger and put it on a little card and mailed the card off. It was just a little square with about 3 drops of blood on it. It came back and told me that I had low good cholesterol and low blood sugar. So if y'all have ever had to do that before, same concept, but they can analyze this, and we know if people smoke cigarettes, we know if people have taken anything, including really common legal substances that are a problem. So we use that as an accountability measure as well. They're required to submit a budget because we want them to learn how to do things financially. They're required to get a job. So they take their income, they figure out what their expenses are, they figure out what the remainder is. So we require them to learn how to budget because that's a big part of just a basic life skill that a lot of our participants don't have. We also look at any other goals that they may have. So driver's licenses, very common for people to have a suspended driver's license. I can get someone to quit using meth easier than I can get them to jump through the hoops that the Department of Safety places on people to get a driver's license back. You wouldn't believe it. It's a big celebration when someone gets a license. Higher education, GED. We have a Veterans Corps participant that's about to start TCAP. So we also look at medical issues, dental issues. We've been partnering with LMU where we can get some free or at-cost dental services done. Because people that suffer with addiction have teeth issues. I mean, meth will rot your teeth out. Pain pills especially will also have a really problem with your dental work. And there is nothing that gives someone more confidence than really having their teeth fixed, as practical as that is. They have to do community service 8 hours a month. They have to complete a halfway house. They have to come to court twice a month. They also have to pay restitution back if they owe victims. And then when they do this for 18 to 24 months, earning their way through 5 phases of our program, they end up in graduation. And I really appreciate Jacksboro Methodist Church. Since it's right in the parking lot of the courthouse, they let us use their fellowship hall for graduation. And I wish that we had on this PowerPoint their before pictures, because you wouldn't recognize a single person standing up there. Their skin's healthier. If they were on meth, typically they gain a little weight. If they were on heroin, typically they lose a little weight. Their appearances, it's just obvious that they're sober. So we've taken that successful program from the last 20 years, and this year we've established a Veterans Treatment Court. Veterans Treatment Court is aimed at working towards veterans who are struggling to find themselves on the wrong side of the wall. I had a client that I was in private practice. He was a Marine. He was medically discharged in the 90s because there was a simulated explosion that went off at the wrong time and left him partially deaf. And he was a little guy, and he kind of broke his body in the Marine Corps just to prove himself, which is fairly common in the service. So he had a lot of back problems. So he came out, he was lost, and it was the late 90s, so he went to a doctor for his back. And because it was the late 90s, that doctor wrote him a very large prescription of Oxycontin. And you all know what happened from there. He got addicted to pills. When the doctor stopped prescribing him, he found the pills another way. When he had to pay for those pills, he stole from family members. and we were able to get him into the Knox County Veterans Treatment Court, and seeing him with his tribe, with other veterans who had been through what he had been through, as opposed to just being in a regular recovery court with people with substance abuse disorder, made all the difference in the world. Transition from military to civilian life is not always easy for everyone. So how does Veterans Court operate? It's based on our recovery court treatment logs. So we still work people through phases, but we are addressing unique challenges to veterans. We use the same protocol for treatment, same protocol for personal accountability, for substance abuse disorder. We plug people into treatment, but we have the VA as a partner. So we have a social worker from the VA that sits on our team that comes to our court every other week when we have Veterans Court. And when people need access to VA medical services, we can plug them in right there. When we can use the VA's housing grant to get folks into housing who are homeless veterans. We can use the VA's treatment center for people with mental health issues. A lot of veterans obviously have PTSD, so it's something that we see frequently in our court. We also have a lot of lower risk veterans that come through the system. That's just kind of the nature of it, because the military has given them a strong start. You know, they have income typically. They have some level of education, so they don't always have the high risk that everyone else has. The biggest difference in Veterans Court, though, is the mentor component. So every veteran is assigned a veteran who is a mentor. One of our mentors right now is actually someone that graduated Knox County's recovery court program, but anyone who has served in the military can be a mentor. And we have veterans in our program ranging from a 25-year-old who did one term in the Army to I think he's 75 years old, who is a Vietnam vet, and everything in between. So don't think these are just young guys or these are just old guys. We have a wide variety in our program, and we're still looking for mentors. We're about to conduct a new mentor training, and I'm going to pass out a brochure that April brought for me in just a minute if you have any more information about that. Retired Colonel Daphne Pruitt from Jellicoe, I think some of you all met her at different events. She is our mentor coordinator, so she helps assign mentors to participants, trains them, so they've got somebody that has been through the service that they can reach out to and talk to. Anyone, felon or misdemeanors, can apply to Veterans Court as long as they have an honorable or a general discharge, because those types of discharges from military service are what's required to engage in the VA services. They also have to volunteer to do it. I can't order someone into Veterans Treatment Court. They need to want to be there. And anyone who served in any branch of service, including the National Guard, including the reserves, and including people on active duty. I think we're about to start someone who may be active duty National Guard in the near future. So that's a little bit about our Veterans Court. I'm going to briefly touch on Mental Health Court as well, just because I have about 2 minutes left. Mental Health Court, when you all see on the news, so-and-so has been arrested for the 87th time, and you think, oh my God, why is this criminal out on the street? That is almost always someone that has a severe mental health disorder. They're typically charged with really low-level misdemeanors. There's not a whole lot we can do with them, but their mental health disorder keeps causing them to interact with the justice system. And incarceration is not going to fix their mental health problem. When they get out, they're just going to continue to suffer from the symptoms of their disease. So it is a huge need in our district. It is a huge need in Campbell County. So when I was running for office, this is something that Judge Asbury and I talked about, is how we have a need for this. And she expressed a strong passion for these folks, because she sees them on the other side when people are involuntarily committed or there's a conservatorship in the Chancery Court. So the biggest difference in mental health court as far as entry into admission has to be a severe and persistent mental health disorder. It can't be somebody that's having a bad day or just has a little bit of anxiety. We're looking for people that have severe mental illnesses, and we plug them into treatment. Some of those folks also have substance abuse issues, and we can connect them with resources there as well. Most people suffer from both. But that's a little bit about the extra things that we do that's not the day-to-day, what you see on TV with Law and Order. This is something that we all spend a lot of time in. Chet is our partner. Chet houses our grant and our employees for felony recovery court, mental health court, and the Veterans Treatment Court. We're also fortunate that in this district, 3 of our sessions judges, which is separate from our umbrella, they have a misdemeanor recovery court as well, and that's something that you all know Judge Jones has as well for misdemeanors. And that's something that we all do that's extra. Other than our 4 employees, I don't get paid extra for this. I don't get a lot of extra time for this. Judge Asbury doesn't get paid for this. Judge Jones doesn't get paid for this. This is something that we spend a significant amount of our time working on to try and find ways to get people out of the system and connected with treatment and things that they need. Does anybody have any questions? And I finished at 12:59. You said I had one.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm thinking of people I know in town who have serious mental illness and are arrested quite often. I see they have to be willing. What do you do with the people who just aren't willing because they're not in their right mind to make a decision?
If I had the answer to that, I would have solved a problem with criminal
It's
abuse.
terrible.
And that's a big challenge in mental health court in particular, is the biggest goal that they have is when people are prescribed medication is for them to be willing to take the medication.
Take it. They have to take it.
And that's often the issue is they take the medicine, they feel better, they think they don't need the medicine anymore, or if they feel bad, they blame the medicine, and when they go off the meds, they go off the meds. So that's an issue. But they work really hard to incentivize and encourage those folks to stick with treatment, whether that means therapy, whether that means medication that's been prescribed by a doctor, but that's the biggest challenge. It really is. And if I had an answer to give you, I wouldn't just be speaking at Rotary Club, they'd have me speaking in front of Congress.
So what about the people who do agree to do it? Are they in their own homes? Are they in a halfway house?
For felony recovery court, they have to do a halfway house. In
But
veterans,
in mental health.
in mental health court, we look at it a little bit differently. We have some sober living facilities and halfway houses that work with us. If they have a stable home, we can keep them in their home as long as that is a good place for them and they're responding to treatment appropriately in that environment. And if they're homeless or they don't have a stable home, then we have housing solutions for them as well. Any other questions? Nancy, thank you so much for inviting me today. And again, I finished right on time. That's hard for a lawyer.